Hey everybody, welcome to Live Coding with Jesse. I'm Jesse, and today we're going to make some React components. Still on that same project that we've been working on, but we need some new components. So first thing I'm going to do is just kind of break down what we need, where these components are going to be used, and then we'll figure out the best way to lay them out, to pull in the data, and we'll see how much we can get done in about an hour, maybe 2 Pomodoro sessions. Also, at some point, I'll give everybody an update on my job search and interviews that I've had, interviews I have coming up, and answer any questions that you all have. So, let me get my chat window out so I can see what you all are saying. Hey, everybody. Okay, it looks like Srini Vasan, it's their first time, so hey, welcome. Glad you could join us. Harshit's here too. Hey, how's it going? A lot of people saying hey, just say hey to everybody. And let's go with, switch this up. Nope, that's not it. Where's my, there we are. Hey. Alright, we have a couple of first-timers here. So, if it is your first time, this is how it'll go. I'll put a Pomodoro timer on, so it'll be a 25-minute timer. I'll stick mostly to the code for 25 minutes, then I'll take a little break, answer some questions, and then we'll go back and forth. At the end of the stream, I'll answer any questions that are left. I do have an interview, a phone interview for a job at 12:30 my time, so that gives me about 2 hours, a little less than 2 hours. So there's going to be a hard limit on how long I can do questions, so I can go on that interview. But let me show you, actually this isn't what I want to show you. First I want to show you this. So I had someone message me on Twitter, Hampus Algren, who's creating this, and I thought it was pretty cool. So it's sideview.app. I'll link it in the description here. But you can check it out, but it seems like you can just kind of drag and drop some code over here, and it runs your JavaScript code live and lets you play with all the CSS and the variables, the JavaScript variables and things. So it looks pretty cool. And he said that he's hoping to get a version of it out in November. So anyway, just thought I would highlight that because he asked me to look at it and it looked kind of cool. All right, let's start off the Pomodoro timer, and then I'll show you what we're working on. Where's my, I guess I'll have to do it here. So I'm going to go to localhost. I'm also going to start a ngrok server so that you all can check this out as I'm working on it. I'm going to paste a link in here. And if you click that link or copy and paste that link into your browser, you can see the website as I'm working on it. There's also a test version available, and that's at gcp.franciscan.university. But this one will be the most up-to-date since it'll mirror what we're working on here. So this is what we need. Let me just give you kind of a preview of what our options in terms of what components we already have and could maybe use some pieces of them. So I'll go to education, faculty, and show you some cards that we're currently using. Okay, so we're going to create cards that could potentially be similar to this. I call these like horizontal cards usually. So we would have an image over here and then a little bit of text. We could do this, but I'm thinking potentially maybe we could also switch it up and have the image on the top and the text on the bottom and have more like a vertical card. The reason being, we're going to have more text content than we do here. So I think it would look better with more text if we did it the other way. But we could potentially use these, and it would be pretty easy to use these. So we will have cards similar to this, but instead of faculty members, we're going to have former students, so alumni of the university. We'll have their picture, we'll have their name, we'll have what program they were in, so business, education, whatever. And then there's going to be a little bit of text, just maybe a paragraph of them explaining whatever quote we have from them. So we need space for all of that. And we may also have a link. We can probably leave the link out for now because we don't have a ton of info. I'd like to get all the info on one card. And so there wouldn't really be a need to link to an entire page for that person. Okay, I do see some questions coming in the chat. So if you have questions, I'm not ignoring you, but I'm just going to wait until the timer goes off and then I'm going to answer the questions. So if you can hang in a little bit, or if you can't hang in there right now, you can always come back and watch the recording, and I'll answer your question at some point. So for now, in about 22 minutes, I can get to your questions. So that's basically what I'm trying to do with this card component. We need to display it on its own page like this, so users will be able to go to a alumni outcomes page and just see a list of all the alumni, similar to what we have here. It also needs to be displayed on the home page. So let's go back to the home page. Down here, we're going to have a section below this financial aid section, and it'll have, potentially maybe like 3, depending on the screen size, it'll have maybe 3 cards across of alumni. And we'll figure out who the featured alumni will be. Maybe we'll have a featured category and those will show up. We don't need to figure that out right now. And then I'd also like it to display on each department homepage. So we have pages for, I guess we'll just go back to education. I believe we have a page for education. Okay, so we have this education page. I'd like down here to have a section, and it would automatically grab whatever alumni we have that graduated with an education degree, just show up here. If there are none, then nothing would show up, but it'd be good to have that automatically fill out, not only for education, but for any of the major program pages. Okay, so that's the plan. Let's get to the code. So I've been looking a little bit at the code for those cards that we currently have. You can see that I have a basic, let me make this bigger, it's probably way too small. Let's move this over for right now. Make some space here. Okay, so I have a GraphQL query. If you're not familiar with GraphQL queries, you can ask a question and I'll explain them a little bit later. But all this is doing is just getting some data. Particularly, we want the name of the alum. We want what department they were in, and we want that content of what is their quote, what's their little paragraph. Okay, so that's what we want. And then down here, we're just getting that data, and for this particular component, we're looping through all that data, and we're adding to the DOM these cards, right? So for now, I actually am using the same faculty cards that we just saw. So that's going to be our starting point, just to see. I figure since we have that card built, it's worth it to see if that content would even fit there. I don't think it will, but it's only going to take us a few minutes to test it, and it could save us a lot of time if it does work. So let's do that right now. We're passing in most of the data, but we still need to pass in the content. So let's call this content, and we'll go alumni node, and I believe it is called content, but we'll double check. Yep, content. Alright, so let's save that. And now we need a way to get to this page, this alumni list page. So we're going to go to our server.js. And let's find where we have alumni. So alumni outcomes is the path at the end of our URL, and we want that to go to alumni list. Okay. So instead of going to our default page component, we're going to make this go to our alumni list component now. And I don't really expect this to work on the first try. If it does, that'll be awesome. UMNI outcomes. Alright, cool. So it didn't work. Let's see. Invariant outcomes. Alright, I figured that might be the case. So I wasn't sure exactly what format to do this. Where are we at? Let's get rid of some of this stuff. Okay, so I wasn't sure what format to put this query in, because normally we have a separate, a whole separate file for our queries, but I thought I'd try to do it inline since we haven't done that before. And I just guessed at what format we put it in. So let's look that up, really quick here. So GraphQL Query component. Let's see. This is the Apollo, which we're using Apollo. So this is the Apollo documentation, and let's see. Oh, okay. You know what? I forgot this GQL. So I'll have to bring in GQL, which I don't think I'm bringing in. We'll import GQL and we'll put that here, and then that should fix our problem. So let's import it, and let's get rid of this import and this import since we're not using them anymore. We brought in GQL, and then now we'll say GQL. I believe that's all we need. Yep, GQL. Wonderful. And we can pop that on the next line. It'll look nicer. Give it a little indentation. Alright, that should work. Make sure our brackets are right. I think they are right. I checked them out earlier. So let's save that and see what we have now. Alright, and it doesn't work. Syntax error, alumni outcomes. Okay, so the problem here is maybe our alumni data is not called alumni outcomes. Let's check that out. So we have the code on GitHub for our GraphQL plugin, or I should say our WordPress plugin that has a lot of, it's doing a lot of different things. One of the things it's doing is hooking up our custom post types to GraphQL. So we'll just check that here, and I'll search for alumni outcomes. There it is. And our GraphQL name, our single name is outcome, or we have outcomes. So maybe it's looking for, let's see, what do we use? We use plural. Maybe it's looking for singular. Maybe we'll try the singular. Nope, same problem. Alumni outcome. Let me check the chat to see if there's some obvious problem that I'm having here. I'll find a file. Actually, I just got a. Let me address this right now. So Hamro says, "I'm 17, and this is in all caps. I'm 17 and a dropout. What should I do? Kill myself." Hamro, definitely don't do that. Alright, so don't kill yourself. I would say take a deep breath right now and calm down. You have a long life ahead of you, and you can do a lot of awesome things. So, number one, I would say find somebody you can talk to. Maybe a counselor, doctor, somebody, and tell them what you're thinking about. So definitely do that before anything else. Immediately. Don't wait. But also, you're only 17 years old. A lot of awesome things can still happen to you. In particular, like if you learn coding, it doesn't really matter if you have a degree. You know, at least here in the United States, it definitely doesn't matter. You can still make money. You could freelance making websites right now and still make money. There are so many awesome things that could happen. You know, you could end up getting a degree. You could end up having multiple degrees if that's what you want to do. You could go to a trade school. Like, there's so many. You could just not go to school at all and still be fine, right? It's entirely possible. I got a brother that he just cuts people's grass. He does landscaping. He just got a really old truck and made enough money to buy this truck and a couple of lawnmowers, and he goes around and does that. And he makes a living doing that. In the wintertime, he shovels people's snow. So, you know, he's able to pay his rent and pay for everything just like that. And, you know, he doesn't need a degree for that or anything. So basically what I'm saying is when you're 17, it might be harder to see things in perspective. But I'm 30, I'm almost 33. I'll be 33 at the end of the month. And let me tell you, like, you have so much ahead of you. Don't even think about ending it now. So, Hamro, I hope you're still there, and I hope you heard that. If you are still there, I want you to get my info in the description. So I'm on Instagram, my YouTube channel's there, my Twitter's there. Okay, message me on there. Let me know you're all right. Next time I'm streaming, try to come in and let us know you're all right. Okay, if you want more help getting in touch with a counselor or something, let me know. I can help you find one. If anybody else has any advice in this, let us know in the chat. And Hamro, I dropped out of college twice. And still ended up getting a degree. And I have family, a wife, 4 kids, a job, like I have a house. So it's okay. Just because you drop out, it's not the, you know, you haven't ruined your life or anything. You're totally fine. Okay. That was pretty serious. I thought I should address that. So I'm gonna go back to the code now, but I'm gonna keep an eye on the chat, Hamro, in case you message back. And I'm serious about reaching out to me. Okay. All right. So I had come into a little bit of an issue where it wasn't recognizing the name, what I was trying to do here. So I pulled that query out of, let's see, outcome. I pulled this out of a different, larger query, so I'm guessing it's probably something to do with my syntax that I'm using. So let's see. Oh, yes, here we are. I need some more curly brackets, right? The solution to so many problems in JavaScript, or in this case GraphQL, seem to just be curly brackets, right? Semicolons and curly brackets. That's okay. Whoa! All right, we got a different error. That's progress. That's good. Wow! Unknown argument last on field alumni outcome. Wow. 1, 3, 4, 5. All right, let's see. I do want to check and see whether it should be the singular or the plural. Cannot query field major program on type alumni outcome. Good. Okay. So I think that's what we want. So let's try this again. All right, good. We got another error. This is a good error. This means that, let's see, we've gotten something back from GraphQL, and let's see our data, edges, node, alumni, edges, alumni departments. Okay, we don't want, okay, I see what happened. Since we got this query from somewhere else, we kind of copied over an existing component. It was set up improperly. So let's see. We don't want data alumni departments. We want data. I believe we'll be okay with this. Let's see if that works. We could use our property node of undefined. Let's use our graphical plugin for Chrome. I think it's this one. Yeah, let's use this, and then we'll be able to see what we're getting and if we're even getting the right thing. Okay, cool. So we are getting the right thing here. And it is in the form of data. And then everything's within data. So it should have data, alumni outcomes, edges. Okay, so that's, yeah, we kind of, should be able to say yeah, when we loop through edges, then it'll be node title slug. Okay, so what we want to find is alumni outcomes edges here. There we go. Alright, let's see how that works. Hey, okay, it worked. Awesome. So, whoa. There's a lot more data in here than I thought there would be. Wow. Okay, cool. So, we have images. They're actually displaying pretty well. I mean, these images are in various formats, and all of them are at least like the face of the person is clearly visible. Okay, I like that. All right, not bad. So we are pulling in the name. We have this learn more link, which we'll probably get rid of. But we don't have the content being displayed. So let's do that. So what we'll do, and we're gonna add something in here to our faculty list item. Okay, so we're gonna add in content as a prop where we're destructuring here, and then within our card, we're gonna say right below this job title, which we're not gonna have. Let's just copy this, and we're gonna check to see here's what we'll do. We're going to check to see if content exists. If it does exist and we've passed in content as a prop, then we're going to render this component. Okay, we're going to render content. We're going to pass it through this decode HTML function, and right now we have typography going as it's as a span. We do have some styles going on that. We'll probably change those styles, but for now this is just a test. So let's see what we have. This is probably going to look pretty weird. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, terrible. Okay, so this is definitely not going to work. Wow. Yeah, some of these are just they have inline styles. Yeah. So what we need to do, instead of passing it to this decode HTML, which is not meant to handle all that HTML, we probably want to do the dangerously set inner HTML. Okay. And 2 minutes, I'm going to go back to the chat. So hang in there if you have questions. Okay. So let's go with dangerously set inner. You know what? Forget it. I'm not going to go with it because it's very, very obvious that this is not this style of card is not going to be able to handle that much text content. I mean, even if we made the cards way bigger, what I'm afraid would happen is at some point, like, there would just have to be white space at the top or the bottom of these images, and it's not going to look right. Whereas if we do the vertical cards, they could expand down without messing with the dimensions of the image. So that's what we're going to do. Let's get rid of our changes here since we're not going to use this component anymore. And let's make a new component. And that's the component that we're going to use with this data. And so let's just start with a totally blank component. I usually copy and don't do that, but maybe it'll be fun to just do something, you know, right from scratch. So let's go up here to our components, and let's add a new file, and let's call this alumni card. And my timer is almost up, so what we'll bring in is we'll import React because we're going to need React, and let's see what else we'll need. Nothing right now. Let's take a short break, and I'm going to scroll all the way up to the top, answer as many questions as I can in 5 minutes. We'll do one more Pomodoro session of coding. We have a hi from Istanbul, from India. Awesome. Welcome. Psychotic Face says, my question is, will you marry me? I'm already married, so in the United States, where I'm from, you can't be married to 2 people at once. So sorry. If you would have asked me like 15 years ago, maybe, but I can't right now. Let's see. Yusuf says, you make React look easy. I don't know why I can't understand React. React, I would say, first of all, I've been working with React for a long time in you know, JavaScript land. So like, I don't know, maybe 2 years now. I can't remember exactly. So I've been working with it for a while, and I struggled with it a lot. And I still struggle with many things. So don't worry if you don't get React right now. If you don't understand it, just keep practicing. You will get it. We're kind of jumping in an already developed project that we've been working on for months and months. So I can understand why it would be tricky to understand what's going on. She says, how can we lazy load components with loading animations? I don't know. I would want to know a little bit more specifically about like what you're using. I assume we're talking about React here. So if you give me a little bit more detail about your particular application, then maybe I can give you a better answer. But that's kind of broad. Oh, we have checking in from Kenya. Hey, how's it going? Oh, more first timers. Welcome. Okay, Vamshi just says lazy loading in React. Please explain. Okay, so if you're going to try to lazy load in React, number one, if I was going to lazy load something, I'd look to see if there are already a package out there that I could just use that would handle that for me. Yeah, that number one, that's not the kind of thing I would want to code myself. If I was going to code it myself, you would need to track your scrolling on your page, right? So you would need to set up an event listener to track the scroll position, and you'd need to track the position of the potential position of what you're going to load, and then set it up so that when you get to a certain scroll position, and you probably would track this through state, right? So you would get renders. When you get to a certain position, then you load that, right, in React. And since this is React, let's say you want to load that through state. So potentially, like when you get to this certain position, you trigger a state change. When that state change, it could just be like a Boolean, right? True, false. Are we going to load this or are we going to not load this? Well, normally when the page first loads, it's a false. Once you get to a certain point in the page, it flips over to true. You get a re-render, and you load that bit of content, right? So that's how you would lazy load an entire component. If you're talking about maybe just lazy loading like an image within a component, again, my first thing would be go to an existing library. Okay, but if you're going to do it in React, you know, it would be similar. Really, it doesn't matter whether it's an actual React component or just an element inside of a component. Either way, I would use state and track your scroll to handle that. Hopefully that makes sense. We have hi from Nepal. Hey. The Azaz says minimum computer knowledge required for programming. You gotta know how to turn it on, how to install things on your computer, how to type, and you can get started. I mean, it's really, really minimal. There are in-browser things that can teach you how to code, so you don't really need anything special in terms of computer knowledge. You just need to know how to navigate to a web page, and then it'll start you off. Like freeCodeCamp will start you off really, you know, kind of at a low level. If you really just need something very, very basic, you could try Scratch. Search for Scratch programming, and you don't even really need to know how to type for Scratch. It's just drag and drop blocks, but it can teach you the basics of programming without even being able to code. So, I'm sorry, without even being able to type. It's really good for kids, but it's also a nice introduction for adults. In fact, in Harvard's Computer Science 50 course, Intro to Computer Science, the first week they have you build something in Scratch. So it's you know, it's being used to teach college age students and above. So yeah, so don't be intimidated by getting into programming. There are very, very simple ways to get started where you need almost no previous knowledge. Okay, my timer's up. I obviously didn't get through all of the questions. I see one here at the bottom that I'll answer right now. So from David says, Jesse, you going to stream on your personal account today? I'm thinking about it. So last week I did do 2 streams on Monday, one for freeCodeCamp and one on my personal account. The link's in the description. If you're interested, you can check out that channel, subscribe if you want to get notified when I'm doing videos or going live. I might do it. So I have a take-home coding challenge for a job that I applied for with, I believe it was with Frame.io in New York City. So I would like to stream me doing that take-home problem. Okay, so they told me that they expect it to take, for candidates to spend no more than 4 hours on it. So I'll try to stream a little bit of it at least. We'll see how it goes though. But I might do that this afternoon at some point. So Eastern time this afternoon. If you're interested in seeing that, it's not going to be React. It's going to be vanilla JavaScript. I'm allowed to use jQuery, but I think I'm just going to try to do it all with vanilla JavaScript. So if you want to see a drop-down menu that you can navigate with your, like an autocomplete drop-down menu that you can navigate with your arrow keys done in vanilla JavaScript, then subscribe to my channel, links in the description, and I will be live streaming that hopefully at some point today. Okay, let's reset our timer. We're going to do one more Pomodoro timer with this. We'll see how much we can get done. And so here's where we're going. We're going to build a React component that's going to be a card component. So material design style card with an image in it. Now here's what we can do. We're using Material UI as our UI framework. We can and should check out what is Material UI already implemented that can help us. Right? So that's one of the main reasons to use a UI library is so you don't have to build all these from scratch. They've done it. So let's check out Material UI. It is just material-ui.com. I'll copy and paste that in the live chat. So that link's in there now. And let's just check out card. Right, so we have different types of cards. We have a simple card, which is not what we want. We have a media card. And let's see, that looks like what we need, right? We need a media card. And let's see what it says. By default, we use a combination of a div element and a background image to display the media. It can be problematic in some situations. For instance, you might want to display video or a responsive image. Use the component property for these use cases. Okay, I think I would much rather have the image be an actual image tag as opposed to a background on a div. One of the main reasons being a background on a div is not going to get picked up by a screen reader. So if someone who's using a screen reader would try to go through the content, it's not going to register like here's an image and here's the description of an image, right? We can't put an alt tag on a background in CSS. So let's use this second example, which I'm hoping that this will add an image tag. It looks like it will. We'll use the component property image, and then we'll get an image tag. I'm also hoping that it lets us put an alt tag. It looks like at least we can have a title. Okay, so that's better than nothing. So I'm hoping it would just pass these along. So let's see. We can copy and paste all of this. So yeah, let's copy and paste this whole thing for now. And see how it looks. Right? See how awesome this is? Right, we have all this to work with, by default. And what we'll do then, object fit is not supported. Okay. Let's save that for now. And then what we can do is go back to our alumni list. And instead of importing faculty list item, let's import, we do need to change this. So instead of image media card, let's change this to, what do we call this? Alumni card? Is that what we called it? Alumni card. You know what? I need to rename this so that we stick with our naming convention of capitalized component names. So alumni card, and then we're gonna export alumni card here. Okay, so we change that. For now, we'll leave everything else the same. And then in our alumni list, let's change faculty list item. So every instance of faculty list item will now be changed to alumni card. Okay, and we're going to pass it all this stuff, which it shouldn't make a difference if we pass it the stuff right now because we're not actually going to use any of it. So we should still get rendered the card with its default data. Will just get rendered as many times as we have pieces of data. Okay, cool. So it's not bringing in, obviously, the image. I'm assuming they used a relative path for the image, so that's not going to work. But we can see our card. So it works to render this. And we will need to bring over some of the other stuff that we've been using. So I'd like to bring over our grid system that we had in place. Should we do that? I'm trying to think if we should use the grid system within the card component or not. You know what, I think it's better if we don't put a grid system in the card. It'll make our component more versatile, right? So what we can do, though, is add our grid system to our list component. So that's what we're going to do. Let's copy and paste some of this grid system into here. So since it's inside our loop, our map, it's going to be as if it was in the component, but we're not locked into using the same grid system for every time we use this alumni card, which we're going to try to recycle this alumni card and use it in at least 3 locations in the website. So this is, I think, definitely a much better way to go. So we have this grid item, and we already have this inside a grid container, so that's fine. We have the grid container. We need to move over the class name of class's card. So we have this down here. Where's our class's card? You know what? Height and max width. Actually, I don't think I'm going to bring that over. I'd like to see what we get without setting our height and max width, just for now. So for now, let's take out that class name. We got all the red squiggles because of indentation, so I'll save it, it should auto indent, and we'll get rid of these red squiggles, hopefully. It needs a key, the key prop. We got that on the wrong spot. So let's remove that key prop from there and put the key on here instead. There we are. Alright, that looks a lot better. So when you're going through data and adding multiples of the same component to a page in React, you need to have a key prop that's unique for each one. Otherwise, you're going to get a warning. So it won't error out and crash your application, but you will get a bunch of warnings. Alright, let's see how that looks now. Okay, that's a lot better. Okay, so we have 3 across. So now that we have a different type of card, we definitely could switch up how we're displaying this. And let's add in an image that is actually going to display. So we already are bringing in this image object. Let's add it into our alumni card so that we can display that image instead of this image that's obviously not working. So let's see how we did it here. Let's pull over a lot of these props. So I'm just going to copy all of this. And let's start adding these in here. So for our headline, we're going to want to use, and we can use, let's see. Yeah, let's pull over our decode HTML as well, just in case we run into some issues with special characters and things. So we can use, for instance, for our profile name, we can pop decode HTML in here and have our profile name in there. For our content, we're going to add it inside of here. Oops, not job title. Well, let's just copy this for now and put it in here. And let's switch it up and call this content. Oops. And let's make sure we add content. Let's take out job title. We're not going to use job title, and we're not going to have a profile link for now. We have this image object coming in, and we pass in the whole object, and then we check. So we have multiple attributes on this image object that we can use, so that's why we pass in the whole object. So I do want to keep this checked to make sure we have an image object, because we know some pieces of data that we looked at before don't have images. So if it looks for the image and there is no image, it's going to crash. It's not going to render. So we need to check first to see if we have an image. So I'm going to grab, you know what, we have this card media. Yeah, let's just type it out by hand. So we're going to check for the image object. And so this is like a short circuit operator. So what JavaScript's going to do when it evaluates an AND statement is it's only going to look at the other side of the AND if the first one is true. So it'll look at this and say, let's go over to this side since we're actually doing something. It'll look at this and say, does an image object exist? Like yes or no. Or is it true, false, right? So if not, it's just going to stop and it's going to go on to the next thing. So it won't even look at anything in here. If it is true, it's going to go over here and it's going to look at the other side. Well, on the other side, we're telling it to render this component. Right? So this is a shorthand way of using a ternary or an if statement. So it saves you a lot of space inside a React component. So I use that frequently. Okay, so if there's an image object, let's render this media, this card media. Otherwise, we're not going to render it at all. And then within this, we can get this for our source. We can grab the image object and then the source URL from the image object. Oops, put that on the wrong thing. Class name. There we are. Okay. So let's get rid of this static address here. And now we're going to get our source URL from here. It's setting the height. I'll leave that for now, but I'm not sure that's going to work. And our title, for now, let's just throw in our alt text as our title. But we'll probably change that up. Okay. Why is it still giving me this? Expected indentation of 12. Alright, it's an indentation thing. Alright. Does it want me to wrap this? Let's see what it's doing. Okay, cool. So we have our images. Right now I'm just making sure the images show up. So I realize this is crazy. So our images are rendering, right, conditionally, depending on whether they're there or not. Not just the image, but that whole section. So if we looked at the code, you know, all of the divs and everything that's containing this image would be gone as well. We're just not rendering it at all. But it looks like so far these images are displaying properly. You know, there's some like, you know, maybe that's kind of cut off a little bit. Yeah, so some of these are a little bit off. So what we may want to do is maybe give a little more height here. You know, allow a little more, but we also have to think about like in terms of width, like what would happen with width. Yeah, so this is cut off. Okay. Alright, so the images need a little bit of work. I'm trying to find a more reasonable length here, but it looks like All of these are okay. This is a more reasonable length. I could live with this if we had content that was maybe this length. That's okay. Okay, this length is good. This length is good. This is a little much, at least if we're going to keep it this this narrow. Okay, let's make these a little bit wider and give our images a little bit more room. So right now it's the height is being set to 140. Let's bump that up to 200 and see what happens. You know what, let's see what happens if we just leave the height off completely. And then let's check our grid. Oh yeah, so here, let's save that, and then let's also check our grid, which should be on, what, alumni list? Yeah. Okay. I think we can switch this up and at least have 4 class here. Should we do that? I think we could do 3. Okay, so we have a column system in this grid. So full width is 12 columns. So on extra small screens, we actually do have full width. But on a large screen right now, we want these to take up 3 columns. So that means it would be, let's try 4 on here. Small would be, let's try 6 and 12. So basically we would have 3 columns, which means we can fit 4 cards across on a large screen. This one would be only 3 cards on a medium screen, 2 cards on a small screen. On an extra small screen, which would be like a phone, we can only fit 1. So you'll see what I mean in a second when we refresh this. Okay, so now we have a little bit more space. Our images should have, let's see what's going on here. Okay, interesting. Interesting for our images. We took out that height. Let's see what's happening here. Let's inspect this and see what's going on. I want to see if it's still adding a height. Okay, I don't see it there. Let's see if there's a height attribute on any of these. Nah, I think we're good. So maybe that height's just being determined by the width. Where am I at? There it is. I was on here. Okay. Let's go back here and see what's happening also with our width. Okay, our spacing, maybe that's where we're getting max width margin. Let's drop our spacing down a bit. Let's drop it by half and see what we get here. That really didn't do much, did it? Let's drop it down again. That's really weird. Okay, so that didn't do anything either. Oh, we have a max width on our cards. That's why. Okay. I didn't realize that we brought over a max width on our card here. Let's see what we get now. Okay. Now we have much wider cards, which is going to allow us to display more text, but it also kind of messes up the images a bit. It seems like the images are still acting like they have a height, a max height. Maybe let's get rid of this for now. And let's double check our media. Classes, media. Yeah, we're not going to pull that in anymore. Whoa. All right, let's just kind of mess with the settings then on our own. So let's mess with this one. Okay, so we have an actual image. Background size, cover. See, this background shouldn't matter anymore, right? Because we're using an image instead. Max width, height, auto. Oh, we do have a max height still. And that's coming from, all right then. Okay, so our max height is actually coming from a file that we're using on that page. So let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that entire file for now. In terms of just importing it on this particular page, on our alumni list page. So you can see here we're bringing in this faculty.css, which I believe, yeah. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of these files completely. Get rid of this head component completely and see what it looks like without that. Okay, and let's see what we have now. Okay, so now we're displaying everything on these cards, but they're going to be uneven. They're going to display, much differently. Okay. I'd rather start from this and then try to make them more uniform. And at least we know what we're dealing with in terms of being able to see the actual image dimensions. Okay. All right, let me check my time. Ooh, 2 more minutes. Okay, here's what I want to do. For the next step, I want to see what this content is actually going to look like. Where are we at? Alumni card. And we're bringing in the content. Let's use... I always forget how to use this. Actually, you know what? I have this. We're using it already somewhere. Where are we using this? In... Probably in one of these pages. Let's see page. Nope, that's a query. Let's just go to our page.js because I'm pretty sure this component is using what I would want to use. Yeah, so we're going to do a dangerously set inner HTML and add content in there. And so that's what we'll add here. And yeah, I don't want to get rid of everything. Actually, I do. Okay. let's see, we may have to change and not have a P there, like a P tag. Oh, is it working this time? There was some weird bug where we had to use a span, but it looks like this is working better. Okay, I definitely don't want a click effect on here, so we'll get rid of that at some point. But this will show, at least we got the HTML tags out of there. So it looks like some of the newer profiles that we have are really short, and some of the older ones are like full page length. I mean, this one even has, you know, subheadings and things like that. So I think probably we'll end up not even showing some of the older ones, right? I mean, this person graduated in 2003, right? This person graduated college before I did. So we want to do, you know, probably some newer profiles. Okay. All right, so that's the second timer is up. So I'm going to go do some questions now. The next step would just be taking these, and I guess what I would probably need to do then is only show just a little bit of the text, maybe. If we wanted to use them all, show a little bit and then truncate that. And then keep that learn more link and show the full amount of data on a page. Yeah, so we could definitely do that. That way we could have it a little bit more uniform in terms of height. With these images, we would probably want to do the same thing where we would set a max height but be generous with our max height so that it could show everything, but we're not going to get really huge images like there's one down here that was really long. I can't see it. Yeah, like this one ends up being really long, right? So we would want to cut down on that. Some of these images just aren't high enough quality. They're a little pixelated. So those would be the next steps. And then in terms of displaying them other places, we would just want to do a similar thing that we did with this map, or our alumni list. So we mapped over everything. So we could either use this same query, and then when we map, we could do a filter first before we map, and we'd do a dot filter and filter out for just those particular students who majored in a certain area, right? Or just the ones that we want to feature on the front page. Or the alternative would be that we modify our query so that we only return the data that we want instead of returning everything and looping through it. So probably long run, it would be better to just get the data that we want. But either way for now would work, since there's really not that much data. It wouldn't be an issue in terms of performance. But those would be the next steps. I'm going to commit all this and have it up on the GitHub repo. Links in the description. So if you want to check out what we've done here, it'll be available soon after I'm finished. And right now I'm going to go back to the live chat, try to figure out where I left off at, and answer all your questions, or as many as I possibly can. Let's see. Prashant says, our videos are in a playlist as projects. I want to see from the start of the project. Yeah, this is project 5. So there's a playlist for project 5. Each project has its own playlist. Sorry, just yawning here. So VWeb Code asks, why is Redux important? Also, how long did it take you to learn and master React and Redux? I would say I'm not a master. Redux was tricky, but it was still something that I learned in maybe, I don't know, a week or two. when I was taking the Udacity React Nano degree, and we learning Redux, that portion of it probably took a week or two to be able to build something that successfully used Redux. Redux is important when you have some complex state management that needs to happen. Then that's when Redux is important. So, for instance, if you find yourself passing state down through several levels of child components, right? Then maybe you might want to think about some state management solution, other than local state. So Redux, Apollo has something similar built in now. You could use React's new context API. So Redux isn't the only option. There's also MobX. So you have some options, but when your app starts to get complex and handling state through just local state starts to get complicated, then you might want to think of a different solution for handling state. And that's where Redux comes in, and things like Redux. Let's see. I'm skipping through a little bit, so to just get some questions. I see there are some comments in here too. I'll read out more if I have time, but I want to make sure I get to all the questions. Let's see. Milos asks, "How are you, Jesse? Do you remember me?" I kind of remember a Milos in the chat, so I don't remember what we talked about before. But how's it going? Thanks for joining us. Leonard says, 25 right now, just graduating with BS in information system programming. Am I too late for this profession? You are definitely not too late for this profession. There are people getting into this profession all the time who are way older than you. So definitely, that's a frequent question that I see here and elsewhere. Definitely not too old. Amin asks how to become a best software engineer. Practice. So the more you build things, the better you will be. So practice and practice doing things the right way. So read the documentation. Stay up to date on the latest ways of doing things for whatever particular area you're in, and you'll get better. Code with Ohid says, "You are awesome, Jesse." Thanks. I appreciate that. VWeb Code says, "Do you know the MERN stack?" Yeah, what is that? Mongo, Express, React, and Node? Is that MERN? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what we use. Right now we're not using Mongo, but yeah, I am familiar with the MERN stack. Chandan says, "Love from India." Hey, how's it going? Thank you. Let's see. Aki says, "I tried Gatsby. Why don't people use it more? Although I know Helmet.js, but I read it's for SEO, right?" I don't know. I mean, Gatsby's a great tool. So I don't know why people don't use it more. Honestly, maybe they just haven't heard about it. I'm not really sure, but I've been impressed with Gatsby. Also, Helmet.js for SEO. Yeah, you want. Trying to think. We're using a Helmet to add things into the head tag in React. I believe that's what it's used for. So you'd want like your metadata that should go in the head tag for SEO. You would use it for that. Milos asks, what do you need to go into electrical engineering? I honestly have no idea about electrical engineering, so I've never done that kind of thing, so I'm really not sure. Hi from Uganda. Hey, how's it going? Hey from Bangladesh. Hey. Fred asks if we'll tackle testing React. I'd love to do more with testing. I'm not sure when that would happen, that we would do a show on testing, but I think that's a great idea. Ray asks what my YouTube channel is. Check the description for this video, and you'll find a link to my YouTube channel, Twitter, and Instagram. I believe my channel is is it Jesse Weigel? I don't even know what my own channel is. Maybe it's like Jesse Weigel 29, something like that. Oh yeah, Umberto says Jesse Weigel 29. Yeah, that's it. Phosphorus says, have you used Jekyll? No, I don't. I don't remember. I don't think I've used Jekyll. I remember looking into it, but I'm not sure if I ever actually used it. VWeb Code says, what is React Framework, like Next.js, Apollo? Why do we need them? Please explain. Yeah, so something like Next.js or Create React App will help you get started with a React project. It'll build out a lot of the structure and handle all your Webpack config. Next also handles things like server-side rendering. So you would want to use them to just get a jump start on things for React. And for most projects, like, they'll work. You know, you don't need custom Webpack stuff going on, and that can be a big barrier to entry if you're not a Webpack expert. Like, I'm definitely not. I don't want to have to mess with that just to get, you know, a simple React app built. Apollo is different. Apollo allows you to use... Really sorry about the yawning. Apollo allows you to use GraphQL with React, so it's going to be it's going to help you bring that data in, make sure you get it where you need to in your app to the right components, and help you handle state. M4T says, how long have you been programming? I'm currently working on my JavaScript skills, and I think I will look for a job in a couple of months as a front-end developer in Poland. I've been programming for, I think, 6 years now. So I think that's great. You're going to be looking for a job. I would say, yeah, you know, and there's no need to really wait to try to find a job. You know, you could certainly start applying for, you know, right now. And, you know, all you need to get a job as a programmer is to convince somebody that to hire you, right? There's not like some test you have to pass, right? If you can, you know, every company's going to have different things they do in the interview, you know, different questions they ask. Some might even not ask a technical question, but you know, I would say don't keep thinking like, oh, I need to get better before I apply. You know, let your potential employers decide. You know, because if you're, you know, a perfectionist type of person, you might keep saying, oh, I need to get better, I need to get better. And meanwhile, people with less experience than you are getting jobs, right? So you can learn on the job. You don't have to do all the learning first and then get the job. You're always going to be learning. So you may as well get paid for it, right? That's the way I feel. VWeb Code, I'm learning React. I want to know why it is the best framework out there. I don't know if React's the best or not, right? React is an option that will work well. There are other options in JavaScript land that will also work well. So I don't think what's the best is the right question. It's what is going to work for this particular project that I'm working on based on what resources I have, what skills that I have, and what are the requirements for the project. Teddy Bear says, are you programming in Mac or Windows? I am on a Mac right now. Sambit asks about which VS Code extensions I'm using and which ones are good for React development. Get React Food Truck. It will start you out with a bunch of different plugins. That basically, the majority of the extensions I'm using for VS Code have come from React Food Truck. So look that up. It's one extension. Once you get that, it'll come with a lot of other extensions that will help you with React. VWebCode says, can I use WebSocket with React for real-time apps? Yeah, I mean, I don't see why you couldn't use it with React. If anybody knows of a reason why, let me know. Phosphorus says, why Visual Studio Code and not Atom? I found Visual Studio Code to be a little faster than Atom. I haven't used Atom recently, but when I did switch, which probably a year ago or so, VS Code was a bit faster. I used to use Atom. For years, I used Atom. VWebCode says, I'm learning React right now. Do you recommend any Udemy courses? I have not taken any React Udemy courses, so I don't know which ones are good or not. Alex says, will this be archived on this YouTube channel? Yes, it will. Yeah, it'll be available. VWeb says, if I build a login system with Firebase and React without any backend, can anybody break my app? Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's always... I always assume if somebody had enough time and money and talent, they could break anything, right? So I don't want to say that they couldn't break it, but if you're relying on, in this case, Google to handle your database, then a big company like Google, I'm sure, has a lot of safeguards in place that you might not think to put in place if you're doing it yourself, from scratch. So it would probably decrease the likelihood of somebody being able to hack into your app. Watcharafol says, "What do you do?" I build websites and web apps, and particularly with JavaScript and React. Cami says, "What's your take on CSS frameworks like Bootstrap, Materialize, and CSS with React? Do they make React apps slow?" You can use Materialize and Bootstrap with React. In fact, in one of the projects we did use Materialize with React. The problem is a lot of the interactive things that happen don't use React state to make it happen. So you're going to miss out on a lot of the benefits of React in terms of their rendering and the speed. So I would, instead of Materialize, use Material UI, where it's going to work with React's state management. And I think there's a Bootstrap equivalent as well. So you can make them work, but it's not going to be as optimized, as fast as it would be if you used React state management to manipulate the DOM, right? You never want to manipulate the DOM directly when you're using React. You always want to do things through state. And with Bootstrap and Materialize, you're going to be manipulating the DOM directly. So better not to use them. Master Nameless says, what's a good simple training project to do to practice coding? Oh, I would just check out some of the projects in freeCodeCamp, freeCodeCamp.org. Check out the projects and to get some ideas for that. And this is also, have you considered turning on your YouTube Super Chat? Not for freeCodeCamp's channel. That would be a decision for, Quincy, who's in charge of freeCodeCamp. On my own channel, I don't know, maybe I'd turn it on. I don't even know if I qualify to be able to turn it on, to be honest. But, I've thought about it before. But for now, I'm okay with this. VWeb says, is GitHub repo important for getting a job? When I am looking to hire candidates, which isn't often, but if you have a GitHub repo, then I will take a closer look at you as a candidate. So I want to see your code, and having a GitHub repo makes it very easy for me to see that, see what exactly you've contributed. So I definitely recommend having a GitHub profile, with some of your better work on it if you're trying to look for a job, and make sure you put a link to that on your resume. M4T says, is it better to stick with vanilla JavaScript or jQuery, or maybe both? Vanilla JavaScript is going to be more versatile, and you'll be able to use it, in more places. But it's good to know a little about jQuery, because a lot of websites use jQuery. So the odds of you having to work on it at some point, especially if you're going to work on old websites for clients or even for companies, you're probably going to see jQuery. It's not that hard to learn, so I wouldn't worry about knowing it or not knowing it, but you're probably going to come across it at some point. But if you're just trying to really learn JavaScript, you can stick with vanilla JavaScript, and that's going to be a good way to go. And then just pick up jQuery when you need it, if you ever do. MV Tram says, what kind of projects can I make with React? Oh, really anything. I mean, really, like anything that's out there on the internet could probably be built with React. Is it best to build it with React? I don't know, but you could do it. I mean, even like native apps you can make with React. If you're using Electron as well, you can make desktop apps with React. So there's a lot you can do with React. MV Tram says, is there any tutorial for React and Firebase for beginners? There's probably a tutorial out there. I don't really remember one off the top of my head, but I bet there's probably more than one out there. VWeb says, how much should I code every day to be really good in coding? You don't. Obviously, the more coding you do, the better you'll be. But if you could dedicate like an hour a day, then you're going to keep getting better, right? If you could do more, do more. It depends on how much time you have, right? If you're spending your whole day playing video games, then maybe spend your whole day coding, right? If you have a job or two jobs and you got to provide for yourself, your family, or whoever, then try to get that half hour in, right? But it kind of just depends on you and how much time you really do have. Sambit, and I don't have anything against video games. I'm just saying, like, if your goal is to be good at coding, then code more if you can. Sambit says, is it possible to build a progressive web app with React as front end and Golang as back end? You could definitely build a progressive web app with React as front end. I don't know very much at all about Golang, but you can pretty much use React with whatever back end you want, so I'm assuming that is possible. Rajan says, which language is best for beginners? It kind of depends on what you want to do, but if I had to pick, I would say JavaScript is good because you can run it in the browser. You don't need to download anything extra. Python is also good because the syntax is pretty simple to understand. So those would be my two languages that, if you're not interested in web development at all, then go with Python. If you are interested in web development, go with JavaScript. Josh Aerosmith says, what do you think of WordPress with React? We're using WordPress with React right now, headless WordPress. I think it's a nice combination because so many companies already run WordPress. So if they wanted something more modern, then in terms of their front end, with React, you could very easily use the data they already have, and their workflow would change very little in terms of content updating and entry. But they could have React, on the front end, use React for their app, their mobile app, and still pull the data from WordPress. So I think it's a good combination in some situations. I wouldn't use it all the time, but I think it's a really nice way to transition people into React without causing them to have to learn a ton of new stuff for maintenance. VWeb says, do you have a CS degree? I do not. My degree is in business. VWeb also says, how many projects do I need to build a powerful portfolio? I don't know what that number is, but honestly, like, I would like to see at least 3 projects on a portfolio if somebody is trying to apply for something. If somebody claims they're an expert at something, I want to see a lot more than 3 projects, you know, honestly, unless those 3 projects are like amazing and huge, then yeah, I'd want to see. So it depends on what kind of role you're trying to get, right? If it's an entry level, like junior developer role, then try for 3 good ones, right? I'd rather have 3 good ones than, you know, 10 ones that are just like terrible or just very, very basic to-do apps or something like that. MV Tram says, is React and React Native same in syntax coding? They're very similar. There are a few differences between React and React Native, but if you know React, it will be pretty easy to go over into React Native. If you happen to learn React Native first, which is more rare, it will be pretty easy to go and do things in React. So just a few differences. Amar says, what are products-based companies which provide job opportunities in ReactJS? There are a lot of companies that use React. So obviously Facebook uses React, and then Instagram because, right, they're owned by Facebook. I'm trying to think what else uses React. Netflix uses React. Eventbrite uses React. I don't know the list. There, if you look up like what companies use React, you'll get a lot of info. Right? There's a lot of companies using React right now. GoDaddy's website's built with React. WordPress is switching over to a lot of stuff being React. So that company is, I believe, is called Automatic, is the WordPress company. So there are a lot of companies using React right now. You know, just do a search. Even go on like a job board and do a search for React as a keyword. And you'll see a lot of. I've been doing that lately, and there are a lot of jobs. Chris says, how do you solve a design problem more in model layer? I'm not sure what you mean about model layer, but to be honest with you, I don't use a lot of design tools. I'm more of a coder, developer, and less of a designer. So I'm a little bit more comfortable just adjusting some CSS than actually going to something like, Sketch or Adobe XD or, something along those lines. So if I'm already working on the project and there's some design stuff, I just switch the code up. If it's brand new and I haven't actually coded anything yet, then maybe I would do things in Sketch. I do use Sketch occasionally. VWeb says, thanks, Jesse. You are helping us a lot. Oh, you're welcome. I got to keep an eye on the time. All right, I'm good. I got a half hour till my phone interview. Aldrich says, is it possible for me to learn C# language as a beginner? Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's just a matter of sticking with it, practicing, studying, building things. Rodrigo says, hi Jesse, thanks for this lesson. What IDE are you using, and is it possible to code React for iOS in Linux? Yeah, for sure. I'm using Visual Studio Code. You could code with React on any operating system, Windows, Mac, Linux, whatever. And then you can use React Native to build iOS apps. So that's definitely possible. Ski760 says, random question, but how do I set up Nginx to work with React Router on refresh without getting a 404? Yeah, it should be fine. So there shouldn't really be anything you need to set up for Nginx, right? Nginx just needs to route your traffic, all traffic, to your server.js file, or whatever you're using with React Router. And then React Router will handle everything. React Router on refresh without getting a 404. It's been so long since I've set that up. I don't remember what, if anything, special you have to do. I'm assuming that there's some documentation about it, though. But yeah, it's been way too long since I've set up Nginx manually. M4T says, I worked with jQuery a little. It's pretty straightforward, but I feel more confident with vanilla JavaScript. I feel like I can do much more with it. Yeah, I mean, vanilla JavaScript, you can end up doing more because you're not locked into the jQuery API, which it's very versatile, but still, there are some restrictions. Oxygen XD says, why don't you start a tutorial series on ReactJS? I might. It's just, it's a lot of work to, actually set up an actual tutorial. So, it's potentially, could happen. Doge says, what are some new trends you see in the programming industry? I don't really know. New trends. There's so much, new going on all the time, right? Everybody's jumping on the machine learning. Like all industries are getting in on machine learning. Some of the coolest stuff now, I think, or the potential to be most helpful is in the medical industry. I think that's a really awesome place to be because your programming work could actually end up saving people's lives. So that's awesome. Also, the work with AR, so like augmented reality, is cool, which, there are ways to use React JavaScript with that. And I think that has a lot more applications than people realize. It's not just entertainment, gaming, but there are applications for industry, medicine, things like that too. So those are some of the areas that I think are pretty cool. Also, like cryptocurrencies are great. Not investment stuff, but in terms of having distributed systems for keeping track of things like, let's say like real estate ownership, identification, even things like voting. They're doing tests with using blockchain stuff for that. I don't know. There's a lot of cool areas where I think it could benefit from a decentralized ledger system that you have with these blockchain technologies. James Hall says, how can I learn React? Read the documentation, check out some React tutorials. So there's a lot of them out there, depending on how you like to learn. Maybe you want to get a book, maybe you want to read blogs, videos. They're out there. Amar says, when to discover the right time to jump into Redux? Get into Redux if you find your apps, if it starts to get really hard to think about your state and keep your state managed properly, then you want to think about Redux or something like it. Chris X says, design problem in model layer. I started a Java dev. I have a project for myself. Then I run into a use case to solve and wonder, how should I write or add classes to solve it? Yeah, I'm not a Java dev, so I'm not sure specifically what you run into. But I do run into cases where things happen in a project and you have to add extra components and things like that. So I'm not sure. Usually my process is like just get it fixed, get it working, and then look at how you could do it better. Sometimes it has to be a quick fix. You just have to do it the best you can, and then hopefully you have time to go back afterwards, optimize it. VWeb says, how do you manage CSS inside React? There's a lot of different ways you could do it. You could use regular style sheets and just import them like you normally would. You could use CSS and JS, styled components, right? Inline CSS, a lot of different ways to do it. I'm not really sure which is the best one. Amar says, is React version 17 going to be a big change in terms of learning? It's going to be some big changes, but I don't think it's going to be huge in terms of learning. Much of React is going to stay the same, but there's going to be some cool new stuff as well. VWeb says, do you think machine learning will take over web development? No, not really. I think a lot of the things that machine learning is good at is not necessarily the same thing that makes a web developer good. So it could potentially be used to help as a tool in web development, but I don't see it. I haven't heard of anything that is probably going to significantly change web development in the short-term future. VWeb says, what is required to start freelancing as a web developer? Find somebody who wants to pay you to do web stuff. That's it. I mean, depending on your country, maybe you need some sort of license to do business, but really you just find somebody who's going to pay you to do work, and that's about it. Igor says, do you already use reactive databases? What do you think about this tech? I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what reactive databases are, so I guess I have no opinion about it right now. Edmund says, hey, I'm just an amateur, but I need to learn coding and be a pro in programming. Need more of your tutorials, help out. Yeah, I mean, there's so many tutorials on here. Like, me personally, there's, I think, over 200 videos right now that I've done. So there's a bunch of stuff there just on this channel, and then there are a ton of other contributors that have done a lot. So definitely there's a lot of material for you to go through here just with freeCodeCamp. Let's see. Aki says, thoughts MobX versus Redux. I haven't used MobX, so I really can't compare. Amar says, is it compulsory to know about component lifecycle perfectly? No, I mean, not perfectly, right? You need to know enough to make it work, right? But having a general understanding of what the component lifecycle is definitely important in React. M4T says, have you heard or read JavaScript and jQuery by John Duckett? Because I've heard good things about this book. I'm thinking about reading it. I have not read it, and I haven't really heard much about it, so I can't really give a good opinion on that. Ava says, why have you chosen Gatsby? What problem is it solving? Actually, so I'm not using Gatsby for this project. David sees, my uncle reads his glucose level with a Bluetooth implant. That's awesome. That is really cool. Marius wants to know my theme in VS Code. It's Seti. You can see how to spell it and everything in the description to the video. VWeb says, what are the main ways to make money after learning coding? Building websites, fixing websites, so either freelancing or getting a job with a company. Eva says, looks very similar, sorry. Oh yeah, no problem. I mean, we're still using React, so whether it's React with Gatsby, Create React App, Next.js, whatever, it's all going to look very similar. So, okay, I've gotten the end of the questions, and my interview is coming up very soon. So I'm going to take a break here, rest my voice for a minute, and I'll stream later on. I know I have 2 meetings later today, so I may or may not stream on my channel, but subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, links in the description to my channel. If I do end up live streaming, you should get a notification about it. And I do have some other videos on there if you'd like to check it out. Feel free to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Links are also in the description. So hopefully I'll see y'all soon. In any case, have a great day. Thank you so much for watching.